Redwood High School's newspaper is called the Gigantea because it's named after the Sequoia gigantea, which is the National Forest's largest tree. And in 1954, when Redwood was formed after Mount Whitney was opened, the student body here named the yearbook The Log, and they named the school newspaper the Gigantea, named after the Sequoia gigantea. And they picked the colors blue and white, and they picked the ranger as the mascot. And so it's all kind of a forest theme. And the Gigantea is a really big tree, and it's a really big newspaper. The Gigantea started, it has always been a student-run newspaper, and it is Visayas' oldest and currently only continuously running high school newspaper, in continuous publication since 1955. And it's just been a student newspaper doing its thing. That's its origins, and that's how long it's been going, since the 50s. Gigantea was in it was still publishing, but it was a dormant phase in its life. The advisor at the time was also the yearbook advisor, and yearbook takes a lot of work, and newspaper kind of was doing its own thing, so to speak. In fact, in this room, this was the journalism room from Redwood's beginning, and Gigantea was kind of a quieter newspaper. The year I took over as advisor, the year before, they had only published 2 newspapers, and they were not online, and it was a small class. And then when I started, Gigantea was 12 students, and that was the whole thing. And they were kind of on the rocks. They really weren't doing their job, and they weren't relevant. And in the past decade, which I've been advising, I think I started in 2009, so it's a little bit longer than a decade. We've built it into an online presence and a print presence, and we're playing a little bit with video and podcast, and we definitely hit photography very strongly, and we've grown. At this point, we are 2 full sections of Journalism 1 and Journalism 2, so there are about 65 kids working for the newspaper, and we have 5 or 6 sections, and we have on any given week 2 or 3 stories a day coming out in the morning, in the afternoon, and the evening, and we're doing live streaming of some sporting events, and we've really grown into quite a news gathering and distribution organization. So far this year, since September, we've had about 90,000 page views, and we've printed 1 edition. I put kids in charge, and I told them that we were going to be great. I know that's a simple and short answer, but really it's pretty amazing what can happen when you hire the right people and you trust them. And the first year that I was the advisor of the Gigantea, 2 young ladies came to me who were juniors, and they had been in newspaper class the semester before with the other advisor, and they were frustrated that kids weren't doing anything. And they came to me, they were like, "You're the new advisor, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "We want to print a newspaper." And I said, "Okay, how do we do that?" And they go, "We'll figure it out." And they looked into our budget, and they had about, I don't know, $7,000 or $8,000 in their budget. And they found a printer, and those 2 young ladies in that year, my first year, published a newspaper every 2 weeks by themselves without any help. And they kind of set the standard that the Gigantea was serious and they were going to work hard. The school didn't know that it was really being done by 2 kids. But they really kind of came out and really did it big. And our motto is make it big, do it right, and give it class. And those 2 young ladies really set that standard. And ever since, we've grown and diversified, added sections. It used to be just 1 class, now it's Journalism 1 and 2. And it used to be just 1 section, and now it's 2 sections. So we're on the grow always, and we do some really neat things. How do I feel about the Gigantea as a whole over the years? I think that student voices need a space where they can share their perspectives, tell Redwood's story their way, and the adults are not in the room. I think that free speech And our First Amendment rights are incredibly important. Our democracy depends on them. And in these interesting times, journalism is more important than ever, because it's really hard to find the truth sometimes. And a journalist's job is to work hard to find the truth of the day and make it accessible to people. And so I feel very strongly about empowering young people to fully utilize their First Amendment rights to free speech and to work hard to find the story and to learn how to share it with people who want to know it. And so that's how I feel about Gigantea overall. I think that we have some room to grow in storytelling beyond the printed word. I think that we could do interesting things with podcasting, and we're starting to build into that. I think we could do interesting things with video packages inside of stories. I think we could do interesting things with photojournalism beyond sports photography. And I would really like to see us grow in those areas. Visual storytelling through both video and still photos, and audio storytelling through podcasts. I think there are opportunities there. The news consumer of your generation is a very visual and auditory news consumer, and I think that's how we'll diversify in the future, and I think that we're going to enhance our work there. Here are some interesting historical facts about the Redwood Gigantea. I have issues of the Gigantea that go all the way back to 1955 in my classroom. And what's interesting is that the concerns of students in 1960 and the concerns of students in 1970 and the concerns of students in 1980 and today are very similar. There's a strong interest in getting involved in clubs and organizations. There's a strong interest in athletics at Redwood High School. There's a strong interest in celebrating excellence and talking about tradition. It's very important. You can see in the history of the Gigantea. I also am, I think, lucky in that the Gigantea has never really been about the advisor. It's always been about the kids. Strong editors, strong writers, kids saying what if, and advisors going sure. And I think that when you let kids run their own newspaper, they've got skin in the game. They don't work for a teacher, they work for the paper. And I've noticed at Redwood that the organizations that really make it big and do it right and give it class are organizations that work every day to empower young people rather than control them in some regards. And it's pretty neat what kids can do when you get out of the way. And the Gigantea, in its 63 or 4 year history, has been a place where kids run the newspaper. It takes an advisor to kind of poke them occasionally, but it's pretty cool to look at Redwood's newspaper history and see the impact of young people and their paper. The Gigantea wrote a really good story once. Colin Watamura and a couple of writers dug into the question about Spirit Lane, that why we paint it blue. And what was interesting is in their reporting they found out that there were a whole lot of stories to tell. And that why, who was involved in their original painting of it, and what are some traditions and that kind of stuff. And that's really an interesting story. It's still up on Gigantea. If you just type in Spirit Lane on the search bar, you can find it. And they interviewed people about Doris Lowe, who the business building is named after. She kind of carried the tradition for about 30 years of painting Spirit Lane, and they dug into her story a little bit, and it led them to start to understand that something as simple as a sidewalk has a story, and it's fun to dig into that. So that's it. Our work as writers is not just current events. Sometimes it's to carry on traditions, at Redwood High School and that kind of thing.
If you can, check out.
Holiday.
I thought
Tired.
it was perfect. It was 29 seconds of clip. It was perfect. It was the perfect amount. It fits so well. I thought it was.
Holiday.
Allie, what's the plan? Because
Well,
you don't have to do one this week.
I know.
That's your decision. Allie doesn't exist.
Okay, yeah, she doesn't, right?
I don't exist, Sally.